welcome back to Read Aloud. We are reading The Tale of Despereaux by Dicamillo. And when we last were here, Mig had been taken from Uncle's home by the knight who come to collect what? The spoon bowls and the spoons and the kettles. So that because King Philip outlawed soup. So she's on her way to the castle, and let's find out what happens when she's there. Chapter 29. Start with the courtesy and finish with the thread. Miggery Sow's luck continued. On her first day on the job as a castle servant, she was sent to deliver a spool of red thread to the princess. Mind, said the head of the serving staff, a dour woman named Louise. She's like, she is royalty, so you must make sure that you curtsy. As that, shouted Mig. You must curtsy, said Louise. Go on, said Meg. Yes. She took the spool of thread from Louise and made her way up the golden staircase to the princess's room, talking to herself as she went. Here I am, off to see the princess. Me, Miggery Sow, seeing the princess up close and personal like. And first off, I must curtsy because she's the royalty. At the door to the princess's room, Mig had a sudden crisis of confidence. She stood a moment, clutching the spool of thread and muttering to herself. Now, how did that go? She said. Give the princess the thread and then give her the courtesy? No. The first the courtesy, then the thread. That's it. Go. That's right. That's the order. Start with the courtesy, finish with the thread. She knocked at the princess's door. Enter, said the pea. Mig, hearing nothing, knocked again. Enter, said the pea. And Mig, still hearing nothing, knocked yet again. Maybe, she said to herself, the princess ain't home. But then the door was flung wide, and there was the princess herself staring right at Miggery Sow. Go, said Mig, with her mouth hanging open. Hello, said the pea. Are you the new serving maid? Have you brought me my thread? Curtsy I must, shouted Mig. She gathered her skirt, dropped the spool of thread, stuck a foot out, and stepped on the stool, rocked back and forth for what seemed quite a long time, both to the watching princess and the rocking Mig, and finally fell to the floor with a Miggish thud. Whoopsie, said Miggery Sow. The pea could not help it. She laughed. That's all right, she said to Mig, shaking her head. It's the spirit of the thing that counts. As that, shouted Mig. It's the spirit of the thing that counts, shouted Pea. Thank you, miss, said Pig. Mig, she got slowly to her feet. Miggery Sow, she got slowly to her feet. She looked at the princess. She looked down at the floor. First the courtesy, then the thread, Mig muttered. Pardon? Said the pea. Go, said Meg. The thread! She dropped to her hands and knees to locate the spool of thread. When she found it, she stood back up and offered it to the pea. I brought you your thread, didn't I? Lovely, said the princess as she took the thread from Meg. Thank you so much. I cannot seem to hold on to a spool of red thread. Everyone I have disappears somehow. Where do you think it went? Are you making a thing? Asked Meg, squinting at the cloth in Pea's hand. I'm making a tapestry, the history of the world. My world, said Pea. See, here's my father, the king, and he's playing the guitar because that's something he loves to do and does quite well. And here's my mother, the queen. She's eating soup because she loved soup. Soup! Go! That's against the law. Yes, said Princess. My father outlawed it because my mother died while she was eating it. Your ma's dead? Yes, said the pea. She died just last month. She bit her bottom lip to stop it from trembling. Ain't that the thing? Said Meg. My ma's dead too. How old were you when she died? Bold was I? Said Meg, taking a step back away from the princess. I'm sorry then. No. How old were you? How old were you? Shouted the pea. Not but 6, said Meg. I'm sorry, said the princess. She gave Meg a quick, deep look of sympathy. How old are you now? 12 years. So am I, said the princess. We're the same age. What is your name? She shouted. Miggery. Miggery Sow. But most just calls me Mig. And I saw you once before, princess. You passed me by on a little white horse. On my birthday it was. And I was in the field with Uncle Sheep. And it was sunset time. Did I wave to you? Said the princess. Huh? Did I wave? Shouted the pea. Yes, nodded Meg. But you didn't wave back, said the princess. I did, said Meg. Only you didn't see. Someday I'll sit on a little white horse and wear a crown and wave. Someday I'll be a princess too. Really? Said Pea, and she gave Meg another quick, deep look, but said nothing else. When Meg finally made her way back down the golden stairs, Louise was waiting for her. How long, she roared, did it take you to deliver a spool of thread to the princess? Too long, guessed Meg. That's right, said Louise, and she gave Meg a good clout to the ear. You are not destined to be one of our star servants. That is already abundantly clear. No, ma'am, said Meg. That's all right, though, because I aim to be a princess. You? A princess? Don't make me laugh. This, reader, was a little joke on Louise's part because she was not a person who laughed. Ever. Not even at a notion as ridiculous as Miggery Sow becoming a princess. Chapter 30, To the Dungeon. At the castle, for the first time in her young life, Mig had enough to eat. And eat she did. She quickly became plump, and then plumper still. She grew rounder and rounder and bigger and bigger. Only her head stayed small. Reader, as a teller of this tale, it is my duty from time to time to utter some hard but rather disagreeable truths. In the spirit of honesty, then, I must inform you that Mig was the tiniest bit lazy. And, too, she was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. That is to say, she was a bit slow-witted. Because of these shortcomings, Louise was hard-pressed to find a job that Miggery Sow could effectively perform. In quick succession, Mig failed as a lady-in-waiting. She was caught trying on the gown of a visiting duchess. A seamstress. She sewed the cloak of the riding master to her own frock and ruined both. Frock is her dress. And as a chambermaid, sent to clean a room, she stood open-mouthed and delighted, admiring the gold walls and floors and tapestries, exclaiming over and over, "Go, ain't it pretty? Go, ain't it something then?" And did no cleaning at all. And while Mig was trying and failing at these many domestic chores, other important things were happening in the castle. The rat in the dungeon below was pacing and muttering in the darkness, waiting to take his revenge on the princess. And upstairs in the castle, the princess had met a mouse, and the mouse had fallen in love with her. Will there be consequences? You bet. Just as Mig's inability to perform any job well had its consequences, for finally, as a last resort, Louise sent Mig to the kitchen, where Cook had a reputation for dealing effectively with difficult help. In Cook's kitchen, Mig dropped eggshells in the pound cake batter. She scrubbed the kitchen floor with cooking oil instead of cleanser. So what would happen then? She sneezed directly onto the king's pork chops the moment before it was to be served to him. Hope they didn't do it. "And all to get for nothings I have encountered," shouted the cook. "Surely you are the worst, the most cauliflower-eared, good for nothingness. There's only one place for you. The dungeon." "Ah," said Mig, cupping her hand around in her ear. "You are being sent to the dungeon. You are to take the jailer his noonday meal. That will be your duty from now on." Reader, you know that the mice of the castle feared the dungeon. Must I tell you that humans feared it too? Certainly, it was never far from their thoughts. In the warm months, a foul odor rose out of its dark depths and permeated the whole of the castle. And in the still, cold nights of winter, Terrible howls issued from the dark place, as if the castle were weeping and moaning. "It's only the wind," the people of the castle assured each other. "Nothing but the wind." Many a serving girl had been sent to the dungeon bearing the jailer's meal, only to return white-faced and weeping, hands trembling, chattering, insisting that they would never go back. And worse, there were whispered stories of those servant girls who had been given the job of feeding the jailer, who had gone downstairs into the dungeon and who had never been seen or heard from again. Do you believe that this will be Meg's fate? Oh, I hope not. What kind of story would this be without Meg? "Listen, you cauliflower-eared fool," shouted Cook. "This is what you do. You take the tray of food down to the dungeon, and you wait for the old man to eat the food, and then you bring the tray back up. Do you think you can manage that?" "I reckon so," said Meg. "I'll take the old man the tray, and he eats what's on it. And then I bring the tray back up. Empty it would be then. I bring the empty tray back up from the deep downs." "That's right," said the cook. "Seems simple, don't it? But I'm sure you'll find a way to bungle it." "Ah?" said Meg. "Nothing," said the cook. "Good luck to you. You'll be needing it." So here's a picture of her sending Meg down. There's the cook's hand. And there's Meg. She watched as Meg descended the dungeon stairs. They were the very same stairs, reader, that the mouse Despereaux had been pushed down the day before. Unlike the mouse, however, Meg had a light. On the tray with the food, there was a single flickering candle to show her the way. She turned on the stairs and looked back at Cook and smiled. "That cauliflower-eared good-for-nothing fool," said the cook, shaking her head. "What's to become of someone who goes to the dungeon smiling, I ask you?" Reader, for the answer to Cook's question, you must read on. We have to stop there for today, so we'll find out tomorrow what happens to Meg in the dungeon. Does she come back up from the deep downs? It's chapter 31, A Song in the Dark. Can Meg sing? I don't know, maybe. See you tomorrow.